Why should you study a master's degree?
Get ahead of the competition. Gain specialist knowledge in your field. Improve your career prospects. Increase your earning potential. And it gives you the opportunity to change career. At the University of Law, we offer a range of master's degrees in law, business, psychology, and education. Visit our website to find out more.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the University of Law's Career Changing webinar. My name is Jess, and I am thrilled to be here today to be able to talk to you about some of the options that you may have as you do move forward. So, as you'll see on our next slide, there is just a bit of an agenda today. So first of all, I'll give a quick introduction to the University of Law. Then we'll talk about some of the different routes that you may have. Obviously, if you're in the audience, you may be thinking about changing career, you may be thinking about enhancing your career. And we'll talk about some of the options that are available to you just at the University of Law. Obviously, there are other providers out there as well, but just a few of the options that are available to us. We'll introduce our wonderful panelists who are Hanny and Barnaby, and they are going to talk to you about basically the decisions that they made. They are doing some of our courses where they have changed career paths or they've enhanced their career paths through postgraduate study. And they're going to talk to you about some of the different options for them. And then towards the end of the session, there will be the opportunity to have a Q&A. So if you do want to post any questions, please do pop them into the question section. We will leave those until the end, and then we'll answer those as we are going through the second half of today's webinar. But please do post any questions that you do have, and we'll do our best to absolutely answer them. We'll just let you know that this webinar is being recorded, and if you do have any questions after the webinar, then there are our contact details that will be available towards the end of the presentation as well. So as you'll see on our next slide, we do have a range of postgraduate courses that are available, and these are the ones that I thought would be the sectors that would be of particular interest to the audience who are with us today. So we do offer a range of postgraduate courses where it may be that you don't have that academic undergraduate background in that particular subject area. So it may be that you did a history degree or a nursing degree, or you have done something completely different, and actually you've finished your studies and you've thought, I'd like to go into a different world of or a different career, and you're thinking about those next steps as to how you're going to get there. It may be that actually you left university, you have worked for a number of years, and actually you're thinking about your next steps, you're thinking about how you can progress that career. Or it may be, in fact, that you didn't go to university at all and you have actually quite a significant number of years of experience, and you're thinking about maybe additional study as to how you can further that progression within your career. And I do think that some of the courses that we do have on offer link to our business masters programs, our academic masters in law. Obviously, we are the University of Law, and so we do have academic masters in law. And we also have our psychology conversion masters, and a range of other different courses as well linked into education or computing science. But we're going to particularly focus on business masters, academic masters in law, and our psychology conversion masters today, just to give you an insight into some of the opportunities that are available out there for you. So as you'll see on our next slide, we do actually have quite a lot of courses, and these are linked to full masters. Some of them can be postgraduate certificates or postgraduate diplomas, but for a lot of these courses, in fact the vast majority of them, we don't actually require a huge background in that particular area. Or it might be that you're coming from an area that is linked to that, but actually you've got that employment knowledge or that particular interest in that particular subject area. And as such, a lot of these different course areas you can go into from a wide variety of different backgrounds, whether or not you're straight out of university, whether or not you've been working for a couple of years, or like I said, whether or not you have not been to university and are thinking about your different options. These are just some of the courses that we've run in previous years, this year. And the one thing I would like to point out, linked to the University of Law, is that obviously we do say we're the University of Law, one of our specialisms is obviously going to be in law. However, we like to consider ourselves as the University of the Professions. The way that we teach, the structure of our programs is always linked to how is that best going to prepare you for the world of work? How is this going to help you in your future employment? So you'll find that our locations, we're based around the country in England. And so we have campuses in London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, and multiple other campuses as well. We also have our online campuses. So if you think that actually you don't want to go into a campus regularly, but you have found over the past couple of years that online teaching, virtual study has really, really changed from what it used to be 10, 15 years ago. Since the pandemic and since teaching technology has changed, you do have that opportunity to have that flexibility around your studying options, whether or not that is you studying full-time online, or whether or not that's studying part-time as well. There are a range of options that you can choose from. And so I did just want to highlight this slide as just some of the options that are available to you. And we will be talking particularly about business and psychology as we go into our panelists, because that's their area of expertise. But if you'll see on the next slide, please. A master's degree can enhance your career in a number of different ways. It can add that additional knowledge, so that may be where you have an undergraduate degree in that particular subject area and you're actually going to enhance your degree and your knowledge. It may also be that if you're thinking about something like an academic master's in law, you might have an undergraduate degree in law, but you want to go in down a particular specialism, or it may be that you already come from that area of specialism and you want to bring that law element to your career. You can do that with that additional knowledge. Like I've said, it allows you to change direction. There are some master's degrees in the UK where all you will do is enhance your knowledge, and that's the aim of that particular course. However, with our courses, you can gain that additional knowledge, but you can also change direction because you don't necessarily have to have that previous background and understanding of that. It shows commitment and enthusiasm to your subject area because you're willing to study for at least a year, sometimes up to 2 years if you're doing it, or 3 years if you're doing it part-time. And it really allows you to build those transferable skills. It might be that you can utilize skills that you've developed over your career or your academic studies previously, but it also allows you to develop those essential skills for that particular area. So if you want to go into project management, if you want to go into psychology, if you want to go into, I don't know, family law, it will allow you to develop the skills that are necessary for that particular profession. Because at the University of Law, the aim of our courses is to give you those skills that are absolutely essential for you to go into your chosen professions, or to go into a wide variety of professions if you're not exactly sure what it is that you would like to go into. Next slide, please. Now, the one thing that I will always say is that, yes, the degree structure, yes, the content of the degree is absolutely essential. The way that it's going to be taught is absolutely essential, because you need to make sure that you are choosing that career journey that is right for you, and that educational journey that's right for you. However, the one thing that I think is absolutely essential, particularly if you're enhancing your career, particularly if you're changing career, is that support that you will get from employability. And our employability department are fantastic. They have such amazing connections, and so do our tutors, because they are professionals. They are people who have been in that industry, that they are bringing that expertise to the classroom and to your future career. So our employability teams are there to specialise in these core areas. We're not a massive university that has 200 degree subject areas from 5 different faculties of varying different degrees. We focus on the things I showed you earlier. We focus on law, business, psychology, education, computing. And as such, our employability teams are able to make those links with those employers to bring that to you and to bring that to your teaching. So they can help you by checking your CVs and applications. They can provide advice on promoting yourself and creating your own brand. There are specific classes linked to that that can be ingrained into your teaching. And there is advice on how you can navigate the customs and the expectations of employment in the UK, particularly if you're an international student or you're thinking about studying from outside of the UK. But also if you are in the UK and you're from the UK, advising on how you can search that market as well. We will cover you and help you and support you no matter what your background is. Next slide, please. Now, that support from the employability service, but also within the academic teams as well, is delivered in either one-to-one sessions where you're going to have support from your tutors, from your lecturers, or it may be from the employability teams where you're just needing that extra support. There will be group activities, and then there's also resources available on our employability portal and also our Blackboard portal and things like that for your academic studies. So yes, it is in person, but then there's also a huge range of online activity and support that we can offer you as well. Next slide, please. Now, I am aware that funding is always a big consideration when you are thinking about further study, but I always like to think of it as you are investing in your future. You are putting that money into yourself right now so that you can earn a larger potential as you do move forward. Now, there are a few different options depending on whether or not you are a home UK student and you class for funding from the government, for example, from postgraduate loans that you may be able to access. Or it may be that there are a range of support systems within your home country that you may be able to access as well. But I would also say that there is also a range of scholarships and bursaries that we do have available. If you are interested in seeing any of our scholarships and bursaries, if you literally just put into a search engine the University of Law scholarships and bursaries, that will take you to our information page and you can see what is available to you, because we want to make sure that we are helping support our students as they start or enhance their particular career paths. So please do have a little bit of a look on our website for a little bit more information about how we can support that journey. Next slide, please. If you are, and at any point think about that you'd like to look more into the University of Law and you're wondering about how you do apply to us, it is done by direct entry on our website through the apply button, and you'll be able to see the key application and enrolment deadlines that are on there, because we do have multiple intakes for the variety of our courses across the year. So you don't just have to wait quite often until September. It might be that you will be able to start in January. So please do make sure that you are having a look on our website as you do go down this journey. I'm not saying that after this webinar today, straight away you'll go and sign up, but it might be that you'll start to think about your options. You'll look at the University of Law, you'll come to one of our open days, and further down the line, you'll think about applying to some of our courses to help you get to be where you want to be in your particular career. Next slide, please. So that is just a quick introduction to the University of Law and the courses that we do have available to you. Now, shortly, I am about to introduce to you our panelists, who are Honey and our other colleague Barnaby, and they're going to give just a quick introduction to themselves as we do move forward. So what you'll see now is that our slides are just about to be taken down, and I'm going to hand over to Honey now.
All right. Thanks, Jess. Is the audio coming clear? All right, that's great. So hi, everybody. My name is Hani. I'm currently studying the Masters of Science in Psychology Conversion at the ULaw campus in Leeds. So I'll just give a brief introduction of my personal and academic and professional background. So I completed my bachelor's or my undergrad from the University of Auckland, and I studied education, specializing in TESOL. And once I completed my undergraduate studies, I worked as an education officer for the Malaysian government in a Mara Junior Science residential schools. And I did that for about a good 12 years. So it's been a while since I've opened a book or like come back into education, and it's changed quite a lot. Um, and re entering the higher education scene as a mature student, I think it's a little bit different now. It's a lot different now. But it's as Jess mentioned, there's a lot of support online, and there's a lot of assistance, especially for us who have been away from academia for a long time. Transitioning back to education has been a good experience so far. Very insightful. Should I talk about why I changed career paths?
That would
Yeah.
be wonderful.
So, having worked for about 10, 12 years, you reach a point in your career where you start to ask yourself, like, are you gonna stay in this, or should you move on to the next step? So that was the main reason why I decided to do my master's. And with a master's qualification, I could either become a specialist teacher or become a lecturer or go into a completely different career path. So those were the kind of things that I was considering when I was thinking, should I pursue a master's, or should I just keep working? Um, so at the moment, I'm completing my MSc. I just finished like 4 hours of classes. So if you see me, if I'm a little brain dead, you can understand why. The material is so engaging. I've always had an interest in psychology, but every lecture we have here, we come out of my classmates and I will come out of the session questioning all our decisions in life, and just really contemplating what we've learned in the session. So it's really good. Aside from completing my studies, I'm currently serving as the University of Law Student Union Psychology course rep. So that means I deal with other students who are taking psychology, whether it's on the MSc course or in the BSc level. And we just communicate about our learning experience here in ULaw and what works and what could be improved. In the meanwhile, I'm also trying to apply for volunteer roles in the mental health or social care fields, so that I can get some working experience here in the UK that would help me further my employability prospects once I'm done studying. Yep.
Thank you very much, Honey. And if you're happy, you feel like you've given an overview and you've talked about your reasons potentially for studying at the University of Law, I'm going to hand now over to Barnaby. He's going to introduce himself.
Thank you, Jess. Hello everyone. My name's Barnaby. I'm currently studying a master's in leadership and human resource management, and I'm studying at the Moorgate campus in London. A little bit of background about me. So currently, I am an assistant manager in a gastro pub and restaurant. Um, and before that, I've worked in quite a few different roles in business to business sales and business to customer sales as well. I graduated from Leeds actually in 2017, and I studied digital media. So my sort of path through work has been very away from that, if I'm perfectly honest. Essentially, I ended up as working in this pub because I actually was working for a startup that lost all their money and they couldn't pay me anymore. And basically, once after the first sort of 8 months working at the pub, I realized that that wasn't for me, that I wanted to change my career path, that I was also done with sales. Because for me, that was a career path that while you can make good money in it, it's very stressful and it's very tied to your sales on that day or that week. You know, your worth goes up and down very quickly. So I was just doing research online, and something that I'm personally really interested in is governance and decision making in employee-owned businesses. So I wanted to get a overview of human resources and leadership. Wanted to understand how companies are run, something very practical, something that's business related, because my aim is to become a freelance consultant in those spaces. But I have plenty of practical experience of managing people and working in these kind of businesses, but I didn't have the certificates to back it up. So I just did my research online. And what sort of drew me to ULaw initially was just the course content and how relevant it was to what I wanted to do. And after doing a bit of research and looking at especially things like the employability promise, the professional development and coaching, because that's an area that I would also like to work in the future. And I've done some coaching before, and I know how invaluable it can be. Looking into that, and then also, yeah, the careers department as well. Those are all the sort of things that pushed me towards this, because I always promised myself that I wouldn't go back to studying unless I had a clear path. For me, it's very much less about getting a certificate that says well done, and actually about learning, developing myself, and being able to come straight out the other side and say, hey, I've got a job. So it's kind of the reason I chose ULaw, was for a lot of those extra reasons. As well. And yeah, I can say, honey, if it makes you feel any better, I've been out of study 6 years and everything's different. It's unreal how much it's changed. I mean, we have AI now. Like, COVID put us all into this world where we all do Zoom calls and etc. all the time. So even for me, coming back to university has been a bit of a shock to the system. Like, my job at the moment is essentially to say, hey guys, how you doing? Do you want some food? Which is just not like sitting down in the library for 6 hours and reading. But I've definitely found some, good support at the university. And like, I've been developing a lot of these transferable skills that will help me in sort of my future roles. I'm used to I've got a lot of like useful skills at the pub, but the things that I've been lacking are like project planning, time management, self-starting, even things like presentation skills that we did in the career development, and then preparing for even things like this webinar as well. Because so I'm the class representative for my intake, which is sort of how I ended up here. So just a bit of a background on me and why I'm here, and why I chose ULaw.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. And strangely enough, I'm also based in Leeds. So I do promise you that you don't have to have a connection to Leeds to come to the University of Law. It just so happens it's one of us, or all of us have got a connection there. And now is the opportunity for those who are in attendance to ask any questions that you may have, linked to what it's like to return to study, linked to what it's like to change, to go through that process of working somewhere or having an idea or working towards a particular career path, and then deciding, actually, I want to do something completely different, or actually, I need to study further to get to be where I want to be. So if you do have any questions, now is the opportunity to pop them into the question section, and we will be able to answer them. But I am aware that as you've mentioned, you both had a bit of a break from going from kind of employment, then going back to university, and it was quite a number of years. What advice would you give to somebody considering changing their career paths, but is worried about returning to learning or entering university for the first time even? Barnaby, can I start with you, and then Hani, I'll go to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two initial thoughts that pop into my head, and the first one is like, pick something you want to do. I wouldn't go back in unless you really want to do it, because you do have to be driven and motivated. And like Honey said, she's loving the course content. I'm really enjoying my course content as well at the moment. I find it really engaging and interesting, because it's something that I picked out that I'm really passionate about. So initially, like, that's the first thing, is like, yeah, take the time, make the right decision, because it is a huge change. Like, that's the biggest thing. You need to be self-starting. You need to be motivated, because if you aren't, like, it's a big difference. But the other thing that I sort of think, and maybe Honey will agree with me, that is, after working in the real world for a number of years, you realize that there isn't like a big trick to studying. You kind of just have to turn up and do it, and it's the same as having a 9 till 5, which I've had plenty of now. So I do think that you should, if you've been out of study for a while, realize that you've got a lot of skills that you've developed in the real world, that will just go straight across. And look, for me, when I started the masters in the intake, there's a lot of people. I was worried I'd be, like a mature student. You're like, oh, there's going to be loads of kids there, and it's not really quite like that at all. There's plenty of people my age, older, younger, and everybody's there for the same reason. So there's no judgment on that. And in my first week, I actually signed up to one of the library courses, and sat down and did some time management and like planning learning, because I knew that was something I was weak at. So there's all these tools and resources, and that people don't expect you to have it right and get it right the first time. It's a very supporting atmosphere. That's what education is. It's people looking to better themselves. So I'd say, like, don't be scared. Pick something you really are passionate about, but be ready to work for it, I would say.
Definitely. And Hani, do you have a similar view, or do you have any different advice that you might be able to provide?
Well, I do think that Barnaby did hit on some really good points about coming back to education, and it's like a different pace. But I would say, because technology is such a big part of education now, the best thing that you could do is really become familiar with learning and educational technology. Like here at ULaw, we use Blackboard as our system where, course materials on there. You can get in touch with people using Blackboard, and just having a bit of that tech savvy, being competent and like confident with, Microsoft Office suites, that really, really helps in terms of organizing yourself and organizing your time. There's actually a lot of technological aids that the university, if you're a university, you law student, you'll get access to your own Microsoft account. And if you know how to maximize it, it actually makes life a lot easier. You don't have to bring a laptop to campus if you understand like how to store your documents on cloud. And you don't have to worry about things like, oh, if my device dies and I've got my documents saved on cloud, I can actually just pop into any of the campus libraries, boot up one of the computers there, and just still continue my work even though my own personal device has died. So being able to be confident and competent with IT, ICT, and like your online resources, that will definitely give you a leg up in the field, because no one goes to the library and borrows physical books and makes like notes and highlights in sticky notes like we used to a decade ago. Everything is online, everything is digital. So making sure that you're comfortable with that and having the right device, basically, I think that's a big part of succeeding at uni these days. So yeah.
I think you've actually hit the nail on the head there, where that is where sometimes those skills that you've developed in your employment can sometimes also help. So you might be familiar with Microsoft Office, and that can really help you in that step. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Office and you've used other platforms, you've still got those skills that you can use towards your academic journey. And if you feel that you are missing something, then there are those support networks that are available to you, whether or not that's through the library, through employability, through student information services, through the student journey services, where they can just provide the extra level of support to make sure that you have all of the tools and skills that you need to thrive on that course. So no, I completely agree. And you will see that there was a question about from Ashley, which was that their background is not in science, and how have you found studying psychology? Is there a lot of maths in the statistics and the science side of things, Honey? How have you found it?
I'm just typing up a message as a response to Ashley. So, yes, because psychology is one of those sciencey subjects. So, I want to say unfortunately, but no, it's just part of the deal. Yes, math and statistics is part of the course, but the way our modules are set up, there are two specific modules. One to take us through qualitative research methods, which is not very mathematical and sciencey. It's still very scientific. There's still like a structure to it. So there's one dedicated module for qualitative research, but there's also another dedicated module for quantitative research, which teaches us all these like statistical concepts and understandings that underpin any scientific research. And it introduces to the SPSS program, which is part of our assessment. We have to demonstrate that we're familiar with how to use it. But as I put in my answer, our instructors here, they are aware of, the troubles and struggles, especially for people who are not from a science background, trying to engage with this kind of content. So they really take us through during our class sessions. If we need any further assistance, just send an email to to any of the instructors on the module, and they are more than happy to help out. I mean, short of giving us the answer, they do basically guide us step by step. And I mean, I was quite reluctant, honestly, when we were first introduced to SPSS. And its statistics is always a little bit scary. Anything maths, and as an English teacher, anything math related, I'm like, ooh. But we've got really good guidance, and yeah, the lectures are easy to follow, and the step-by-step guides are useful and helpful, and we have tutorials to have hands-on experience with this program. So it's been a bit scary, but we survived. So you'll be able to do it too.
Thank you for the reassurance. And I think there was a follow-up question to that, but I'll ask both of you linked to the sizes that you have. What is the class size that you're normally being taught in? So whether or not that is some of your bigger classrooms or some of the smaller classrooms, and I don't think you'll know exactly how many are in your general cohort, but roughly speaking, how many are in your classrooms?
Sorry, I guess I'll go first. So I think on my course specific ones, there's about 16 is sort of the smallest group I think I'm taught in, and then the largest is no more than 30. I would say, off the top of my head, I could be wrong.
For my cohort, the October intake, our class size is 30, and the MSc Psychology January intake is 7 or 10. So I think with different intakes, you're going to get a different number of students enrolling. And I think the more popular intake time is in June, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so 30 and 10.
So you will find that, particularly if you have been in a previous undergraduate degree where class sizes, I mean, in my undergraduate degree in my first year, I was in a lecture theatre of 200. That wasn't uncommon for that to be the case. And I think that there is the expectation that when you do get to master's levels, that the classroom sizes are going to be smaller, that you are going to get that little bit of more interaction with your tutors. But I do think that one of the specialisms of our university is the fact that we specialise in small group teaching, that we want to make sure that we are not taking on more students than we can teach. We want to make sure that each student has that supported academic experience where they do have the opportunity to ask those questions, to challenge those topics, and to really get the most out of their study. So it might be that in some of our courses, some of your modules might only be 5 or 6, and some of them might be up to 30. But that's generally speaking, it does vary, but we do like to think that we keep it to small classroom sizes. There's also been another question linked to, and Barnaby, I know that you're working as well as studying at the minute, so maybe this is a question for you. How have you found balancing your university work with your other commitments, whether or not that is working or whether or not that is your social life?
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest, it is tough. It's no walk in the park. So I was working full time before I started studying, and I managed to work out something with my boss where I'm now doing 3 days a week. I'm doing about 30 hours to 35 hours a week. A lot of it's about starting at 3-4 p.m. and I work through to midnight 1 a.m. depending on how busy it is at the pub. So I'm doing about 30 hours at work, and then about 3 days a week in uni, and then I get 1 day a week where I'm doing neither, and I'm spending a lot of time reading and writing and doing my washing. But it's not as bad as I thought it would be. I was chatting with a friend about this, and I get a lot of work done because I'm quite a last minute merchant. But when you're balancing so many things, you just have to do it. You know, every time, every moment you have a bit of free time to go and sit down in the library, it is the last minute. So I'm always getting things done, which is nice. It's definitely got easier the further I've got into it. Now I know how much time and also how much energy I need to do certain things. I think that was the big shock in the first couple of weeks where I was like, what do you mean I can't work 14 hours and then be right as rain at 9 a.m.? And now I'm just like, yeah, of course, you know, that's just being an adult. So yeah, it's not been the easiest thing in the world, but it gets easier over time, definitely. And like I said, I actually did that the time management stuff at uni, which really helped as well. And then like I'm still managing to have somewhat of a social life somehow, but you've just got to be realistic. And I'm working 3 days a week now, so when it comes to assignments, I'm going to cut down as well. You know, I've got like a deal, and I've chatted with my boss, but I know that's not practical for everyone. But personally, I was like, I'd rather work less hours and do it in 1 year than do it over 2 years and just still work full time. But that was my own personal choice, and I'm in a privileged position, not like the international students where I can work more than 20 hours. So it's definitely slightly different. But yeah, I think it's very manageable. Again, it helps that I enjoy what I'm doing and I have a clear like goal set in mind. Yeah, so that would be my answer.
Thank you for sharing that experience. I am aware that obviously you are in a slightly different position where you are working quite a number of hours when you are working, and obviously it does depend on individual circumstances. But you did mention the fact that you chose to do that as a full-time course, and there is the option that if people would prefer to do so, you can do the vast majority of our courses as a part-time option where you can spread that out and work a little bit more if you feel that that would be more manageable within your other commitments.
Yeah.
And how are you finding your commitment and your balance with your academic studies?
Well, as an international student, it's been quite manageable. I would say the only thing is that it took some time for all of us on the MSc course because we're mostly international. I think it's about like 98% of the class are international students. It took us some time to get used to the UK weather and like daylight saving. So we had to dedicate pretty much like 2 to 3 months just getting used to the difference in the weather, finding your way around, managing money, accommodation, adjusting to the lifestyle here. So I gave myself about 3 months grace period to find my footing. But it's been all right. I mean, I have a lot of classmates who have managed to secure paid work, and they're able to balance work and commuting to campus and then staying on campus and study time. It's actually quite manageable for the postgraduate course if you're an international student, I guess, because it's only like at the moment we only have 2 days where we're on campus dedicated to teaching and learning. So the other rest of the time, the other 5 days, you have a lot of time to do things like volunteering, paid employment, and traveling. I've had a friend who just came back from Germany during the Easter break, so it's pretty manageable as long as you're disciplined and you have a focus. Like Barnaby said, that you need to have a focus. You have to have a goal and make sure you stick with it. So it's all right. Yeah.
And I think that's like Bandy said, it's something that you can like, and obviously I think you said as well, you gave yourself a little bit of a grace period, you find the way that you're working, you get into a routine, and then as you are going through your studies, it's not just that the help's available at the beginning, and if you don't access it at the beginning, it's lost to you. You do have that element of support that you can go through as you are going through your studies, which I think is really important, that people hopefully would know that that supported journey is all the way through that journey, but that sometimes they need to recognize when they do need to identify where that support needs to come from. And obviously your tutors will have that open and honest conversation with yourselves as well. Now, there is a question that's come in linked to the LLM in family law, which I will not direct to our panelists because I don't think that you'll have the expertise, unless you have a secret background in family law that you haven't mentioned. I will say that the question is that with the LLM family law, The full-time program, is it for one full-time academic year if you're going full-time? It is indeed. So it's 3 terms across the full-time year, or you can do it across 6 terms if you're planning on doing it part-time. The examination side of things, as far as I'm aware, modules are assessed by a 3-hour unseen written examination or a 4,500 word coursework assignment. There is the opportunity to do the dissertation module, and that's assessed by a submission of a thesis of 15,000 words, as far as I'm aware. Can change, but that's my understanding of the course at the minute and the information that's available to you. So if you are interested in that LLM in family law, there's also a little bit more information on our website. And we also have our open day for our business and our academic masters in law on the 30th of the month. So you do have that option as well to come to one of our open days and learn a little bit more about the actual subject area of those courses as well. So I can see that you are answering questions as we are going along, so thank you very much. I can see them being typed away. One of the other questions is linked to more of the kind of the Masters in Computing Science, and is the course suitable for people without a heavy background in IT and mathematics? And also, is the course accredited? So this is one of our new courses that is going to be available. And I will say that at the moment, my understanding of the course is that it is available for people who do not have that heavy background of kind of the maths, the IT, and it is there to build on some of those core skills that you would need to move into a career linked to that. But what I would say is that if you are interested in that course, have a look on our website, find out a little bit more information, and if you do want to know if your background is suitable for any of our courses, then my advice would be to drop our admissions team an email with just a little bit of an overview about what qualifications or what your professional background is, and they'll be able to provide just a little bit more academic guidance as to whether or not you would be suitable for the course. So I hope that gives you a little bit of guidance for that. Okay, I can see that we are flying through these questions at the minute. So one of the other questions that I know that normally comes up quite regularly is, what does a typical week look like for you? Now, I know that you've both mentioned that there is a little bit of studying, obviously you're working potentially, but is that the same every week? Does it vary? Is this week similar to what it was like last week? Barnaby, can I ask you to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So my weeks when I have lectures on typically look like fairly similar. I've got into a routine now that works for me. So my lectures are on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So I work Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, which means I have Friday as my free day. Ironically enough, this week I've got different working days, but that's because of commitments. So I typically will go into university on Monday. I think my first lecture is at 11. I usually go in and I try and treat it like a 9 till 5 on any day that I have lectures. Just go in. I get in for 9 o'clock. I go and sit in the in the cafe downstairs, and I look at what I've got to do for the week to do with prepare, engage, consolidate all the work for my workshops and lectures. I print out all my reading, and I work out what time in the week I'll be able to do it. So if I'm I'm working on Wednesday, but in the morning I've got, I'll have enough energy to do 2 hours of work. I sort of schedule that in. So I get that done, then I do my lectures, have a bit of lunch, more lectures, and then depending on the level of energy and how much I worked on the weekend, so I'll go to the library. For example, last night I went straight to the library. I tend to work in about 45-minute bursts, and I take 15 minutes off because I just can't study for longer than 45 minutes at the moment. I'm imagining I'm going to get better as the term goes on. And then I work until I'm completely gassed and my brain tells me it's time to go home. So, for me, I work late hours anyway. I work in a pub, so staying up and working in the library till sort of 9 p.m., 10 p.m. is it doesn't feel like very late night to me because I'm used to getting home at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. So I'll stay up and work and try and get on with things. Then again, Tuesday in for a 9 a.m. lecture. Today I've actually meant to have a lecture right now, but I was given permission. I'm being good, and I'm going to catch up on the work. It's all okay. I'm going to get an extra session. And then, yeah, depending on how much energy I have, I'll do some more work this evening. Then I do like to break up the days that I work and the days that I do uni work. I think it's, at least for the way my brain works, a lot better. Like when I basically, if I need to do uni work, I go to the university. I'm not very good at working from home. I don't work well like that. I know myself. So then the days that I'm going into my pub job, I will maybe get a bit of reading done, but I tend to sort of keep them very separate. And then Friday I do my washing, I clean my clothes, have a shave, all those important things. Yeah, and then the evenings, my girlfriend gets off, I go and see her, or I'll go and see friends as well. Like once I'm in the centre of London, this is why I like to go in early and get work done. Is if I finish lectures at, I think at like 6 on a Thursday, I've got a few friends that live in the central, or live or work in central, so I can go and see them for a beer or to go to the cinema or something. And then I just work all weekend, which is really boring. So that's what my sort of structure looks like. But then in the reading weeks, I had a lot more flexibility, which was really nice. So in the reading weeks and holiday weeks, the ones just gone, I worked a lot. I worked about 4 or 5 days a week, because I knew that when it came to crunch time with the assignments, that I would be cutting my hours down to basically nothing and treating, uni work as a full-time job. So my weeks change quite drastically, just depending on which shifts I'm working. Yeah, and also when my girlfriend's off, because look, she's off Tuesday night, I'm not going to be in the library. So that's essentially how I work out my weeks. But the flexibility is there. And personally, I like that I can go and sit down till 10 p.m. in like a nice quiet space. And yeah, because I can't work from home. I'm at home at the moment, but for me, it's a very safe, like relaxed space. But that's how I work and get on with it. So there you go. That's my answer.
Thank you for that overview. And you did mention, obviously, that you were meant to be in a lecture at the minute. So thank you very much for joining us. Just to show the support that is given to our students, I actually spoke to your lecturers, who agreed that you could come out of your lecture to support this webinar, but they would arrange for somebody to sit with you and catch up any of the learning that you'd missed. And I think that is almost unheard of in some of the other universities that I've worked for, where that they would take the time, that the tutors would sit with you and make sure that they could work around any kind of things that may have cropped up, but they really care about your learning, your experience, and they want to make sure that you have that support. So yes, thank you very much for joining us today. Obviously, Annie, we're wonderful that you're here as well today, but what does your week look like typically?
Well, I do like that, as Barnaby mentioned, the even though our modules change over the teaching blocks, but usually the teaching days kind of stay the same. So you have that routine, right? So for us, we have Tuesdays and Fridays blocked off. And I'm currently in my third learning block. So the only difference between the three blocks is we always have our academic sessions on Tuesdays and Fridays, but the only difference would be the start and finish time. So we've consistently started at around 9 a.m. on Tuesdays, and there are some times where we finish at 11 a.m. because we've only got one module. There are some blocks where we finished a little bit later because we're covering two modules. And Fridays have also usually start around the same time, like 9 a.m. And those also would vary only in their end time, depending on how many modules or workshops we're having in that time. So it's been pretty consistent, and it's easy for me to manage my week that way, because I say, right, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll dedicate it to studying. Tuesdays will be lectures. Wednesdays, I'll do some reading or do some research on topics and get started on dissertation ideas or assessment ideas. And Friday, like about 3 p.m., I'll start my weekend mode, which will be Friday evening, all of Saturday, and then Sunday to Monday is like my personal time. So Sundays when I sit down with my weekly planner, and I'll plot out what are all the things that I have to do. Because of my role as the student union representative, sometimes there are online meetings that I'd have to attend, and I just plot those in on Sunday to make sure the following week, I'm aware of what are my commitments. And then Monday is my grocery shopping, grocery haircut, meal prep days, and then just rinse and repeat the whole cycle. So it's pretty good the way that the university kind of makes the teaching sessions fixed in that sense. There is a little bit of flexibility, and I did have an instance of not being able to attend a lecture because I was quite unwell. And my instructors also provided some support in the sense that, you could come in and have a chat, and they would share some materials that I would find useful. So that was quite a good experience.
That's good. I'm really glad that you were supported as well, and when you needed it. Now, I think we have time for the final two questions. So I'm just going to ask them very, very quickly. Barnaby, I'll let you leave this question at the minute, but what advice would you give for the MSc psychology course, and for somebody who's about to start it or thinking about it? What advice would you give, honey?
I would definitely say do a bit of reading into the course, right? Or the subject, because if you just read what's on social media and on Instagram, the pop psych stuff, it's very different compared to academic psychology and reading journal articles. What we see on YouTube and social media, again, it's very like fluff psychology. It's psychology in a very easy to understand way, right? But when you actually sit down and learn it in an academic setting or higher education setting, it is a bit more statistical, a bit more scientific, a bit more academic. So you need to look at psychology as a real studying subject from the academic point of view, and not think that it's like what we see on the Instagram quote or on TikTok. So yeah, that would be my advice for those who are interested in MSc psychology.
My advice would also be that everything that you see on TikTok or Instagram, also take it with a pinch of salt, because that is not always what it's represented to be. So completely agree. And there is also a final question, which is linked to anybody who is undertaking an online course. Are the lectures at set times? Are they recorded? Are they available to watch at a later date? Now, it's my understanding, obviously, we do offer a range of our courses in our online campus. And it can vary from course to course, where some courses will have set lectures per module, and they are at certain times of the week, and you will join them at those set times of the week. There will be other courses where they will have a little bit more flexibility linked to whether or not the sessions are going to be recorded. You'll watch them in your own time, you'll do your self-study, and you will bring that kind of into a classroom at set times. It does vary. The one thing I would say is that if you are thinking about doing an online course, we do have our online campus open days, where you can speak to a range of students from the various different courses about what their experience is studying that particular course online and completely online. And it also allows you to have that opportunity to speak to the tutors, because we do have tutors that will only teach online, if that makes sense. We have our own campus that is completely online, so it's not just, I feel like some universities may do it as kind of an afterthought, online teaching, and they just integrate it. We have a long-standing online campus where we have allowed this flexibility for students who do not want to go into campus. Some students thrive going into campus, some students thrive doing things in their own time and their own pace, as they do on the online campus. And my advice would be to come along to one of our open days, and we'll be able to provide a little bit more guidance depending on which course it is that you're interested in. They'll be able to tell you exactly how it's run. Now, I am going to say thank you to all of those attendees who have joined us today. Thank you for your time. We really hope that you've found the session insightful as to what it's like to return to learn, whether or not it is kickstarting your career, whether or not it is enhancing your career. It's just some of the options that are available to you from the University of Law. We hope that you found this useful. You will see here just a couple of the ways that you can contact us. I did say TikTok and Instagram, don't always take it with the everything, take it with a pinch of salt, but it is a fantastic way that you can engage with the university and find out a little bit more. At our university website, law.ac.uk, you can find out when our next open days are or taster sessions and find out any more questions. I am going to say a huge thank you to Barnaby and to Hani for their wonderful insight and for willing to share their experiences. I am aware that every student has an individual experience when they go to university, and things may change, timetables may change, workloads may change, course structures may change, as we make sure that we are responding to the employment needs of future employers. But it's been really wonderful to hear Barnaby and Hani talk about their current experience of their courses at the University of Law, and I hope that you found it useful too. So I am going to say thank you very much, and we do hope to see you at a University of Law open day in the near future. Thank you all.